Breaking news alert, Howie Roseman has made another trade for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's talk about it here. My name is Chase Sr. You're watching Eagles Now. It is a Monday evening, September 8th, taking a little bit of a break from this Bears-Vikings Monday Night Football game. I was also on a run, trying to get that run in as I'm training for a High Rocks competition in November prior to Monday Night Football. My phone was blowing up from all my employees in the Slack channel. Chase, the Eagles have made a trade, so I had to jet back to a YouTube short. Now I'm in front of the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you subscribe to the channel. When I tell you that whenever the Eagles make a move, I have you covered, I'm not lying to all of the real ones, all of the legends out there. Shoot, I've been rooting on this team as a diehard Eagles fan since I was 4 years old. I know how thirsty we are when it comes down to Eagles news, updates, and reactions. And so I live it and breathe it just like you do. And so that's why we're talking about this trade. And yeah, it helped me out a little bit. Got moving, up the heart rate, was able to increase my mileage time a little bit because I had to come home to talk about this move. So lock us in, hit that subscribe button. I'm not cocky when I say this, but nobody out there, I monitor these things, is producing more Philadelphia Eagles content, long form, short form on YouTube than me and us on Eagles Now. And that's why you got to hop on board. Join the momentous train that is Eagles Now and subscribe. All right, so the Eagles have made a pretty surprising and fascinating trade here going into week 2. They're set to take on the Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium in a Super Bowl 59 rematch. They, of course, won week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys, and here are the official trade details. I also see a lot of people in the comment section saying, Chase, get to the point. This is a long-form Eagles talk show. That is also why I do YouTube Shorts, 60 seconds or less. And then we have this long-form platform here on Eagles Now where we're able to dive in, dissect, react, get to the bottom of why the Eagles make the moves that they do, how it impacts this Eagles roster. And there are radio shows that last hours and hours. There are TV programs that last a very long time as well. And so this is a hybrid of a TV show, a radio program, podcast. Podcasts are also very long, and it's a hybrid of all of that, which is the beauty of this platform, why I love it so much. So, for all those people, here are the trade details here a couple of minutes into the program, and let's continue to dissect it all. So, the Eagles are trading for Jaguars running back Tank Bigsby, and it's not like they're giving up nothing, which is why this deal is so interesting to me, because the trade package is somewhat sizable for this point of the year for a backup running back, because the Eagles are sending the Jags a 2026 fifth and a 2026 sixth-round pick. Keep in mind that after the Eagles trimmed down their roster to 53 players, Howie Roseman said, our construction of this roster is not done. It is not over. We're going to continue to make moves, and while we like having all of the draft capital that we do, the draft capital is a bonus, and it's something that we can use to our advantage to make trades to improve our team. And shoot, if Howie is willing to give up 2 firsts, a third, a fifth, among other things for Micah Parsons, according to Jake Laser, he reported that yesterday on Fox Sports, clearly Howie is going to continue to be aggressive like he always is. Owner Jeffrey Lurie, his birthday today, I believe. Happy birthday, Jeff. You're doing a great job owning this football team. He's going to give him the leeway to make these moves. And if Howie looks at the team and sees a weakness or a way to improve, to add depth, he's going to exhaust all of those options. And Tank Bigsby is a pretty legitimate player. Now, I think the Jags are making this move. They really like their 1-2 punch at the running back spot. Under new head coach Liam Cohen, the Jags able to get a week 1 win over the Carolina Panthers, and they look solid. Trevor Lawrence didn't put up gaudy numbers. Brian Thomas only had 1 catch. Travis Hunter, used exclusively as a wide receiver, had a few grabs, but they looked like a much more buttoned-up franchise compared to what we've seen previously under Doug Peterson. And so I think the Jags like what they're doing right now. Liam Cohen has a good sense of the direction of this team, and they like what they have in the running back room. They have Travis Etienne, and then they also have Bashal Tutin, who they drafted in the 2025 NFL draft back in April, and he can really move. He was one of the fastest running backs at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis this past March. And so this made Tank Bigsby a little bit expendable. But Howie Roseman is bringing in a player here who might not be in the rotation for Jacksonville, might not even be in the rotation for Philadelphia, but he's a former third-round pick from the 2023 NFL Draft out of Auburn. He's only 24 years old. He's a very high-level quality depth piece. He's clearly talented, and the Eagles love bringing in players with a lot of draft pedigree here. And Tank Bigsby last year put up some really good production because ETN has been dealing with some injuries throughout his career. Hasn't quite been that player that a lot of people thought he was going to be when he was coming out of Clemson. But Bigsby is a player who last year, 16 games, 1 start as the RB2 for Jacksonville, had 168 carries for 766 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4.6 yards per carry. That is pretty good production there. Year 1, 50 carries, $132, 2 touchdowns, 2.6 yards per carry. You always have to remember, too, that Liam Cohen wasn't a part of the regime that drafted Tank Bigsby. That was the Doug Peterson regime. And so Liam Cohen not really tied to the player here, which is also probably a big reason why they were willing to give him up, on top of the fact that they liked their running back rotation. In that week 1 game against the Panthers, Bigsby did have 5 carries for 12 yards. So he was getting some opportunities there, but Tootin is probably going to rise up the depth chart. Another reason why I think the Eagles are making this trade, Will Shipley left the Cowboys game early with a rib injury. And I think Will Shipley's a really good player. I think he's explosive. He's a dual threat guy. He can run it. He can catch it. That screen pass that brought the Eagles deep into the red zone toward the goal line. He was patient. He had good vision. He let blockers get out in front of him, but he suffered a rib injury. And so I think the Eagles might be worried about his health status moving forward. He might miss some time. This might signify rib injury for a running back. Maybe Will Shipley lands on IR, which means he's out at least a month. And so your 3-headed running back attack, of course, going to be led by Saquon Barkley. Tank Bigsby, I think, might be your number 2. And then you have A.J. Dillon, the thumper, as your number 3. He was the number 3 behind Will Shipley. In the immediacy, A.J. Dillon might be RB2. And then as you get Tank Bigsby acclimated and up to speed, learning this offense, he's RB3, and then eventually he becomes RB2. In the future, we'll see what the Eagles do, because they're going to have to make some moves, you would imagine, once Will Shipley comes back, if he's out for a little while. Do they go with 4 running backs? Do they then go with a fewer amount of tight ends? You know, Kylen Granson right now is tight end 3 behind Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra, but there's also this, right? Ben Van Sumeren is out for the year. He made the initial 53 as your fullback, made the opening night roster as your fullback. Who filled in for him at fullback? It was Kylen Granson. The Eagles could call up a player like Kari Blasingame, who was with this team last year once Van Sumeren got hurt last year, once he was starting to get incorporated with this offense. And you let go of Granson, then you go with 2 tight ends, you have a fullback, you go with 4 running backs. If you want to hold on to all of them, then you probably still have to make a roster move somewhere else. They also have, I think, 6 rostered edge rushers who are currently on this team right now on the 53. And so you could let go of an Obu Okoronkwo. Nick Sirianni said today, I know that Azeez Ojulari is going to help us win football games at some point. He was a healthy scratch. But I'm just trying to give you a peek into what the Eagles might be thinking here. Because this isn't just a trade that the Eagles are making, giving up a 5th and a 6th to just say, Tank Bigsby, we're not even going to utilize him. He's not even going to be a part of our team as far as getting carries or having a role. Like, you're giving up a 5th and a 6th. That is decent draft capital for a player who was a former 3rd-round pick, had nearly 800 yards rushing last year, and he had 7 touchdowns. You're bringing in a very quality player. Another thing, too, with this is I'm just ripping it off the fly. Again, I just got done a run, so all the thoughts that are coming to my brain were just instant reacting to this. You could use him as a returner. And he does have some experience as a returner. So as a rookie, He had 4 kick returns for 99 yards, 24.8 yards per return. Last year in year 2, 6 returns for a $195, 32.5 yards per return. And then this year, he had 1 return for 20 yards. Will Shipley was also used as a kick returner. Him and John Metchie were being used as the 2 kick returners back there. So again, if Shipley's out, it's not just running back carries. It's kickoff returns. And Tank Bigsby as your kick returner, pretty legit right there. So you could go with Bigsby, and then John Metchie was also the other returner there, and that's your 2-headed monster in the return game. So again, Howie Roseman is never going to shy away from an opportunity to bulk up his roster and to improve his team. And this is another example of that. Now, I do have some more thoughts that I want to get to here. The Eagles worked out several players today, and it's notable who they worked out, including a former Eagle who I have PTSD from a catch that he missed in Super Bowl 57. Do you know that name? If you do, drop it into the chat live right now. We'll get to that just around the corner. Philadelphia Eagles now brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. That's why millions and millions of people across the country are signed up. It's easy to play. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in. Right now, when you play your first $5 lineup, you get $50 instantly. You can also win up to 2,000 times your money. And here's how the game works, right? Who are you high on this year? Who are you low on? Going into week 1, one of the selections that we really liked, Jalen Hurts more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. He ran for 2 tutties because Matt Eberflus didn't think about having a quarterback spy for that Cowboys defense. And Jalen Hurts was able to carve up Dallas, especially on the money downs. And he helped to clinch the game late with that short rush. So that's how the game works. Download the app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, I just want to make sure I'm covering all my bases here. Mike Garafolo with this report, too. Eagles trade for Tank Bigsby is in part due to a need for another kick returner, sources say. He'll be in the mix for that role with Will Shipley, who had 1 return against the Cowboys dealing with a rib injury. All right, so I was right on that. I know Jordan Schultz had a report, too. Fantasy football owners stock up on rookie running back Bashal Tutin, who had a terrific camp with the Jags. That's true if you're into fantasy. Jags have a very deep running back room. They love what they saw from Travis Etienne in week 1. Tank Bigsby, he's a physical runner too, who can also catch the football, has some big playability. And the Eagles, again, adding just a really talented player here. And then what I also wanted to hit on were the workouts that the Eagles held today. So the Eagles kind of had their own NFL combine. They hosted several players for a workout. Earlier today, talked about how they worked out cornerback Mike Hilton. He was the number 1 graded, according to Pro Football Focus, run defense corner in the NFL. So as far as rush defense grade among corners last year, he was the highest graded player in the NFL in that category. He is a strictly slot guy. So if the Eagles had him, do they have plans to move Cooper DeJean to the outside? Nick Sirianni said today, no plans as of right now. But at that point, they didn't add Mike Hilton. He's also a veteran who's been in the league since, I think, 2016 as a UDFA out of Ole Miss. So that would be a quality veteran depth addition to just give you depth at slot nickel corner. The other players who the Eagles worked out, Ladarius Henderson, offensive line, Kadeem Telfort, offensive lineman, wide receiver KJ Osborne, Isaiah Foskey, who we talked about last week, a former second-round pick out of Notre Dame, who the Eagles really liked in the pre-draft process. They met with him prior to the draft. Jamin Davis, a former first-round pick linebacker by the Washington Commanders out of Kentucky, I believe. And then get this, the Eagles today working out, former Eagle, training camp star, and it never translated to good play in the regular season for the most part, Quez Watkins, the speedster, working out for the Eagles today. I don't want him anywhere close to the NovaCare complex. I don't want him anywhere close to this Eagles team. But this interesting too. Eagles working out offensive linemen, working out a couple of wide receivers. Isaiah Foskey, second-round edge. Again, Howie loves players with draft pedigree. And then working out a corner. So clearly, they think that they need to add some players at those specific positions, and they're always wanting to take a look at some talented ball players. All right, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching this show. Thanks to all of the real ones who made it until the end. If you are a real one, I want you to type me down in the comments section. Therefore, I know who you are, and I'll catch you tomorrow here on Eagles Now.